Hey, what's up, guys? It's Chris here, also known as Manifest from the Smart Music Business Podcast. I got my man Adrian from Anno Domini Nation, who's rocking the beats. And I met this guy at Funnel Hacking Live a few years ago. Welcome to the podcast, man. How are you?
What's up, Chris? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Super stoked to be chatting with you. Man, I'm just a fan of what you guys have been doing. I've been watching you guys with the beats and the features and just, the business that you've been building, helping indie artists. But why don't we start by maybe sharing how, your story of a producer and then how you got into this business and making beats and helping indie artists.
Definitely, yeah. So my story starts almost 20 years ago, actually, in the early 2000s. I was one of the pioneers of the online beat licensing model. So up until that point, the way that independent artists and producers connected used to be you go to a studio, you book it for a couple hours, you start jamming, you record a song, and it was like a lengthy and expensive process.
Yeah.
But once the whole sort of online thing kicked off, where artists started connecting with each other through forums like, SoundClick, MP3.com, MySpace, those kind of sites,
Yeah.
and it was possible to upload and trade files electronically, that kind of sped up the whole process and kind of democratized everything for independent artists, right? Where you didn't
Yeah.
have to go to the big expensive studio, you didn't have to physically fly out to meet the producer and work together. All of a sudden, you were just sending, MP3s and WAV files back and forth and just
Mm.
collaborating like that. So I was actually one of the first producers to license beats online to rappers. And basically, how that worked is we would post music online, rappers would listen to it, and then they would just click that little PayPal checkout now button, and then we would basically transfer them the files and they would get the beats and record their songs. So yeah,
And you were doing this in like 99, 2000.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Dude,
back then that was like revolutionary, and now it's like the standard way to do things, right?
dude, yeah, because like how I got it, my first record came out in 2001, and so I started rapping and singing in 98, 99. And first of all, I only had access to beats that were local from the producers
Mhm.
that were here. And so it was limited, right? And they were charging me like $500 a beat. It was exclusive, but
Yep.
like I think that's freaking expensive for an indie artist first starting. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little ripped off from like when I'm just starting, and
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily known or anything like that. But
Mhm.
I can only imagine like the idea of, like you're just tapping into like way more producers, way more beats, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's the other part of it. So one aspect of it was the whole online bit, right? Connecting with people online, and the other part of it was the invention of the non-exclusive license, right?
Yeah.
So instead of literally just creating a beat, selling it to one single individual rapper or singer or whatever, we basically came up with the idea of non-exclusively licensing a beat, which means that the producer could license it to multiple artists at a much lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously great for the indie artist because now instead of paying $500 like you, they're paying like $30 or something to be able to
Yeah.
license and get access to a beat, which is much more affordable to most independent artists.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a trade-off. You're not the only one who's going to have that beat, right? It might
Yeah.
be licensed to 10 other people. But
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, there's millions of artists worldwide. First of all, when they record their version of that song for their fan base, the chances of someone having heard that beat before are like infinitesimally small, right?
Yeah. Like
And the
how
other
many
aspect
artists
of
actually like blow up? And especially when you're just
yeah,
getting started, like I wish I had my EP in front of me, but like it's not exactly my best songs. But would they be
mhm.
able to press CDs and
Oh yeah,
distribution and all that stuff? Like it's like,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, you would be able to digitally, physically sell your album. You can make money from streams. Obviously, it depends a little bit on the individual producer. Everyone kind of has different terms in their license agreement, but
right.
it would be pretty standard to be allowed to at least monetize like 100,000 streams and make like 1,000 physical sales, something like that.
Yeah.
So, potentially you're spending $30 for a non-exclusive license, and then you're selling $30 per album, or 20 bucks per album. You're selling 1,000 of those,
Yeah.
so you're getting $20,000 back. That's a
Yeah.
pretty great investment.
You're recouping a lot faster. And I think of it too. It's uh one of my producer friends said to me, it's the artist who makes the track. So you could have a dope beat, but if some rapper or singer just throws up all over and just does a crappy job, and then
Which
little,
happens.
yeah, you're like, dude, you destroyed my beat.
Yeah.
But then who can market it as well too, right? Like who's got the idea?
Yeah. And I mean, especially in hip hop music, I feel like the whole idea of like sampling and recreating stuff is like part of the culture, right? So
Mhm.
the idea of like rapping on a beat that someone else has used before is not
Yeah.
necessarily like a weird concept, right? It's all about like, who can rock it best, who can create the best song around it, who can bring some kind of fresh element as a lyricist.
Yeah.
Because the beat is just one part of it, right? Then it's like how you
Yeah.
arrange the song, what kind of lyrics you add, maybe you add a singer on the hook, all that kind of stuff creates a unique track.
Yeah, it's very. I've never licensed a beat before, but I definitely write to a lot of people's beats, and then I send them to a producer to make my own. But like, definitely to get in the game, just starting. Like, I feel like, man, a quick way to get in. What did you start producing on when you first got started? Like an MPC, or what did you start with?
Actually, I started my very, very first thing that I used was Magic's Music Maker. You ever heard of that?
No.
This is like very simple beginner, like online software. And I,
Okay.
I downloaded a semi-legal version of that, back in the days, just to get
Yeah.
started. And from there, I kind of progressed to Reason, which is like the complete opposite. It's completely, ridiculously hard and a really slow workflow.
Right.
And then I
Right.
kind of ended up somewhere in the middle with FL Studio, which is kind of like the hip
Cool.
hop standard for producing these days.
Yep. Yep. The first time I got introduced to FL Studio was my buddy. Well, I don't know if he's a buddy, but we've worked together. His boy Wanda. I know
Uh-huh.
he produced some tracks for me, and I used to go over to his house. And before he did Eminem and Drake, he was just starting to work with Drake. And he was just FL Studio, man. And
Nice, man. I'm
he
sure his
was,
prices are a little higher now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I messaged him. What was the last year? He gave me an idea for he was gonna like I sent him a track. He's like, you need to get a female vocal on that, and I sent it to a guy to get a female vocal, and then the other guy ended up producing it instead of me finding out what Matt would charge me. I don't know what he would charge me now, but it would be a lot more than where he started. But like that's just
For
like
sure.
the inspiration of like there's nothing wrong with starting in your mom's basement, man, and making beats and just the possibility of this thing is just it's real,
For sure,
right?
man. Yeah, I mean it's awesome. Like talking about democratizing the entire music industry, like the fact that you can now just download software and sound as good as, most hardware 20 years ago is pretty
Yeah,
incredible, right?
yeah,
You don't need that fancy multi-million dollar studio to, get all the drums individually, recorded in and like,
yeah.
live session musicians and stuff like that. So not saying that that stuff doesn't hold value, but it's so much easier now to get access to incredible sounds as a bedroom producer, like you said, just starting out.
Yeah. Yeah, just like freaking and just the speed of getting in there and out there and the quality is just like another level in the mixing. Like um what's do you have any success stories about like dudes that like blew up on your beat or maybe that you didn't think was gonna be hot and took off or anything like just any cool stories that come to mind there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've seen a lot of independent artists come up in that time. And
Yeah.
most recently we had a guy who won our song contest 3 years ago. So once a year we host this like independent artist song contest,
Yeah.
just for fun, really. It's like a free entry type of thing.
Yeah.
And like fast forward to today, he's signed to a major label through Sony. He's done like a US tour just recently wrapped up and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool to see those guys who come up through your community and then kind of rise to the top and just do the thing, live their dream.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that endlessly motivates me. It's
Yeah.
cool getting placements with the big artists.
Right.
I did tracks with everyone from like Snoop Dogg to 50 Cent, Wu-Tang Clan. But what really gets me excited is finding those diamonds in the rough and then being able
Yeah.
to, supply them with the foundation of their career and then see them like take off, do
Yeah.
amazing things.
Yeah, yeah. I love finding diamond in the rough producers that are just on the come up.
Mhm.
Just because they're young, they're killing it, giving them an opportunity. But then watching them blow up and their prices blow up and just them take off. And it's wild that sometimes they get bigger than me a lot of instances, and it's also humbling too. It's like, wow, man, like it's just so cool. Um,
For
we
sure.
uh we had a featured artist on a song a long time ago in Japan. This guy named Koi from Crossfaith, and the label wanted him on there. And now his band has got to be like like 10 times bigger than mine. And it's just like I was giving him a shot as a featured artist, just to kind of get it known. It helped my record as well too, obviously. But then just like watching it take off. Um, Before we
Cool,
jump
man.
into the featured artist thing though, what about like the whole I see a lot of producers collaborating a lot more. Did you do a lot of that when you were at the beginning, like making beats together, like and you starting something and somebody else finishing it kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, more so in the early days.
Yeah,
I remember there was like a distinct point in time where I realized that if I wanted my business to grow, my music production business, I
yeah,
had to come out with regular content, right? So I'm talking about daily beats, if not like every second or third day at least.
yeah.
And I realized that it was really hard to wear all the hats, like do the marketing, do the sales, keep the website maintained, and come up with all the creative content.
Mm-hmm.
So I was one of the first producers to kind of grow a team of producers around me.
Mm.
So today we have 11 producers.
Wow.
And in the very early days, the way I kind of found producers that I wanted to sign to my production company and bring on board, I would collab with them first just to kind of see what kind of people they are, how we vibe
Mm.
with, together creating content. If we have like the same vision for what makes good music and stuff like that. So early on, I did a lot of collabs just to kind of find those people. That was my main incentive.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think most of the producers on my team, they just kind of do their own thing. But I do think there's a lot of value in kind of trading ideas. One might come up with the melody, the other one does the drums. It can just kind of bring a fresh aspect to your tracks, right? Something that maybe you
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought of yourself.
Yeah.
So it's definitely fun, more than anything, to just kind of collab and see what comes up with it.
Yeah, I'm always learning new stuff when I do a write with someone, and just the way they approach the lyric, let alone the beat or whatnot. And just the ideas are just endless, and it's just a different. People just think differently than you do, right?
Yeah.
Um, what was I
Yeah,
gonna
and I
say?
think sometimes it's also humbling when you realize that you don't know everything, right? Everybody
Yeah,
has something valuable to show you, something to teach you, and you're always learning as a
yeah,
musician. Well, as
yeah,
you are with anything in life, really. Because if you ever feel like you're too good to collaborate with someone else, then that's a dangerous place to be because you should always be
yeah.
learning and always be looking to improve.
Yeah, I wish I collabed more, man. That's one thing I kind of regret back in the day, especially on tour. Sometimes you tour with artists and you get ego, and it's like, no, man, like let's work together, let's write together, let's do stuff.
Mhm.
And so I've been collaborating a ton more than ever. Uh, One thing you said is really powerful is that you want to see how people work first before committing, and it's kind of like you got to date before you marry. And I
Yeah.
know in the rock world or album world, sometimes you'll sign up with a producer and say, "Hey, I want you to do my whole album," but it's like you haven't even done a song together yet. And
Yeah.
so, like, what do you have to say about that? Like the idea of like getting to know someone first, because like, yeah, you might not work together, you might not even make a great song together, or they just
Sure.
not might be good people business wise and kind of shady too, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's something that I learned the hard way, and that is it's not just about talent, right? You can listen to somebody's beats or somebody's songs and you can be like, "Wow, this guy's an incredible musician. I want to work with him." But the thing is there's more to a successful collaboration than just like the talent side of things. You
Yeah,
have to be able to get along as people. They have to be good people, they have to be humble, they have to be hardworking, they have to deliver on time. Because if any of those things are lacking, chances are, it's not going to be a successful collaboration. And I've worked with
yeah,
a ton of incredibly talented producers, but then they would just keep me waiting for like months, and they just wouldn't pull through, or they were
yeah.
just really bad people to my customers, and they would just treat them like they were too arrogant and
Mm,
too up themselves. So that's not
yeah,
a good look, and that reflects badly on me and my company, right? If I have a
yeah,
producer on the team who's kind of delivering bad customer service.
yeah.
So there's more to it than talent, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, paying on time was always one that's kind of kept my foot in the door and being cool. And, even giving the example of Boy Wonder there, like there's a relationship and I paid on time. I wasn't a jerk and just professional. That goes such a long way of keeping the door open, even when someone else takes off. Um,
For sure, man.
so I've been watching you guys do this whole thing with like features and like I saw the Rick Ross thing, I saw the exhibit thing. Can you talk about this whole where you have the opportunity people can buy like this beat pack and get like a famous featured artist? Can you share about that?
Yeah, so the concept is pretty similar to the non-exclusive beat licensing that we
Yeah.
pioneered, 20 years ago. And the funny thing is, Together with my A&R partner, we've been brokering features for independent artists for like 10 years or something like that.
Wow.
But it just now occurred to us that, hang on, like the same thing that we're doing with the beats, with the non-exclusive licensing to make it more affordable to independent artists, we could be doing that with features as well. Because I really strongly believe in the power of collaborating with the major artists for indie artists to get ahead, right? Kind of
Mm,
leveraging that fan base, being able to get more eyeballs on your music, all that kind of cross promo that comes with that. But the
yeah.
thing is, if you want to get someone like, Rick Ross or I don't know, a Snoop Dogg onto your record, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars, right? So most indie artists without a label backing and whatnot, they don't have that kind of a budget. So what we came up with was the idea of a non-exclusive license for artist features. So we basically eat up all the upfront costs to get someone like Rick Ross on board, right? Whatever he charges, like 60 to 80,000 or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then we are able to relicense his verse to multiple independent artists for, a couple $100 instead of tens of thousands of dollars, which is obviously much more affordable. So the trade-off is like, yes, other artists are going to have the same verse, but on the flip side, you get to, at a very huge discount, get Rick Ross onto your record. You get to promote his name, his likeness. You get to, show up in Spotify and the search results. You get to do all that cool stuff, and you get the bragging rights to your fan base of, I have a song with Rick Ross, which is
Yeah.
pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So it's all a trade-off. If you have $80,000 to go and get Rick Ross yourself, do that.
Yeah.
That's much better. But
Yeah.
I think for a lot of independent artists, we're kind of opening the door to a lot of possibilities that they weren't able to access before. They didn't have those connections, they didn't have those resources. So we're just kind of bringing those to artists. So what we
Yeah.
did is we kind of combined the non-exclusive beats with the non-exclusive artist features to create these packages for independent artists. And we've had people like Snoop Dogg on board. Most recently, we had Exhibit,
Yeah.
we had Rick Ross, like I mentioned, and a couple of other major artists. So yeah, I'm super excited about that, and it seems like from the reception from the artist community that people are loving the pack. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, I saw it and I was just like, man, that is like so cool. And some could say, well, oh, well, Rick Ross is going to be, everyone's going to have that verse, but again, the beat's going to be different. I don't know, what tempo or what beats per minute he recorded it at, but I'm sure you could speed it up or slow it down. Or would you be able to like, I guess, edit it or whatever, or like mess? How much are you allowed to mess with it? Even I guess, like,
Yeah. So we have something called a transfer rights license. That's kind of like an upgrade,
yeah,
and that basically gives you the legal rights to then move the vocals onto any beat of your choosing, which means your track is going to be more unique and stand out.
yeah,
And that's fully, it comes with all the sign-offs and stuff like that to give you that permission. Because obviously, when we approach the artists, we send them one beat to record on. That's the one that they like. So they record their vocals. And then for them to be able to give someone else the permission to move them, it requires like a separate license.
I
But there
see.
is that possibility. And obviously, that also comes with the rights to, kind of remix their vocals a little bit. We do try to give artists options. Something that we did recently is we'll do multiple beat variations already included in the pack,
Oh,
recorded with
cool.
the artist vocals. So at least you have like 3 or 4 different options right off the bat. So you don't have to necessarily go get like a custom beat made, just because maybe you're not feeling the vibe or the BPM, like you said, of the chosen track by the artist. But at least then you'll have, you have like a boom bap version, you have a trap
Yeah,
version, you have, like a more clubby version or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So hopefully that goes some way to making your individual track stand out.
yeah,
And then there's obviously a lot more to it. You're gonna have your own version of the song, your own concept. You're gonna have your own mixing. Maybe you bring on some additional featured artists, and then everyone's marketing and promotion of
mm,
their song is gonna be different, right?
yeah.
There's gonna be some that make a big splash, and some who just kind of release the track to like their friends and family, which is totally cool too.
Yeah. And that's what I was just going to point out is that like, someone might be skeptical and be like, "Oh, well everyone's going to have this verse." But like how many people are really going to promote it hard?
Yeah,
And like you said with the splash, and I know if I'm getting a verse, I'm going to be promoting the junk out of that.
for
And
sure.
then people are going to associate that verse with me more than somebody else's track or whatever, right? But I think it all comes down to the marketing and promotion as usual, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, there is a lot of artists, think this is a fantastic idea, and then there's obviously the other side where some people are pushing back. But I've been there before. 20 years ago, all the producers, all the artists, they were saying like, "What are you doing, non-exclusively licensing beats? Right? This is like weird.
yeah,
You're completely destroying the music industry." And
yeah,
now fast forward 20 years, that's like the standard way for rappers to find beats, right?
Yeah.
Even big name artists, like a lot of these major label releases, a lot of Billboard tracks, they're non-exclusively licensed from producers.
Yeah.
And even like the verse thing, Jay-Z actually licensed a feature for his most recent album. A lot of people don't know that, but that's a non-exclusive license that he got for his most recent album.
Interesting.
But it just kind of goes to show that more and more people are kind of queuing into this and
Yeah.
understanding the concept and the possibilities, and it's all just about making the music industry more open and more accessible to more people
Yeah.
instead of just the elite few, right? And it's
Yeah.
taking power back from like the major companies, the major record labels, and putting it back into the hands of independent artists.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And it just moving the needle quicker, getting in the game, just moving it forward and not letting money be an excuse, right? It's like there's ideas, there's opportunities, and like you said, back in the day, it would have cost, thousands, and how much for a feature, and seeing the value in it, right? Like, I get artists sometimes hitting me up for features and stuff like that. And it's like, look, I've spent millions of dollars marketing my brand over the years. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to let anybody tap into that for free. And that's why you guys, or Rick Ross charges what he does or whatever, and you guys have paid whatever fee to allow people to tap into that. And if someone ever, uh, sneezes at my price or cost or whatever, and again, I normally only like to work with artists that like have at least 500,000 monthly listeners, or or the song is dope or whatever. But like you got to see the value. Like I know
Mhm.
I've paid thousands of dollars for a feature, like and because I see the value in it. um One thing I was concerned about is, so this would be a regular feature, but the song's not going to show up on Rick Ross's profile or on exhibits because it's not a primary feature. But what are they doing to make sure that artists aren't like accidentally setting it up that way and putting their name? I guess their label and
Yeah.
Spotify's watching out for it, because like that could be a bit of a admin nightmare.
Yeah, so I mean, you're always going to have, no matter what you do, you're always going to have a few bad actors, right? But
Yeah.
the way that we try to minimize that is we have very specific, sort of terminology in the contract that
Mm,
we give to the licensors. So if an artist buys our beat pack, then it will tell them exactly, you can't put Rick Ross as the primary artist. It has to be a featured artist. And we mentioned this, by the way, before they purchase as well. It's all like on the
yeah.
sales page. It gives them like a rundown.
Yeah.
And again, like on the follow-up email, so we try to hit them in as many possible ways to explain it. You're always going to have like one or two artists who are just like, you know what would be a great idea? I'm just going to make Rick Ross the main artist and pretend like I'm on his album.
Yeah.
And then what happens usually is, Spotify or the distribution company, they're going to spot that. They're going to be upset. They're going to take down the song. They might blacklist your channel or your artist profile.
Yeah.
So it's really a lose-lose for everybody who tries to do that. And I definitely don't recommend doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Big time.
yeah.
Big
So,
time.
as long as you just follow the rules and you're not like an a-hole, essentially, if you're just
Yeah.
cool about it, then it's
Yeah.
a great opportunity. But if you try to game the system and then you get taken down, like that's your own undoing, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you honestly think you're going to get away with it. Like you think that, you know, uh, Rick Ross or Exhibit or whoever is going to allow you to just be a primary and just show up right there on his singles beside all his other stuff, or his label is going to allow that. And let alone, I'm always teaching my students, like, you got to plan out your release, you got to schedule it. And his followers wouldn't even get notified anyways, because he's not going to pitch it to this release radar or any of that stuff. Um,
Sure.
and
I mean,
so like,
it also depends a little bit on the platform. I don't know exactly how every single platform's algorithms work, but I know, for example, on YouTube, if you release a track featuring, let's say, Exhibit, somebody types in Exhibit, chances are that will show up in the search listings as well as the primary artist tracks, right? Exhibit's own
yeah,
work. As long as
yeah,
it's a popular song, it's getting traction and stuff like that. So there's definitely still some promotion that you're getting just associated with
yeah.
the major artist name, other than the fact that you can promote that you have a record with them. So there is still like organic, traffic, organic listeners that follow up from that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, that's what people forget, is that like YouTube's a search engine, Spotify's a freaking search engine, Google,
Yep.
and that's one of the reasons I started doing. It's been 22 years I've been doing this, and I did my first cover songs this year, and so I've been actually doing some covers to
Oh, nice.
show up more in the search engines, and just another way to grow my fan base, right? So super powerful. Well, I'm definitely guys. I'm gonna put the links below so you can get one of these packs. I think the one they have right now is with Exhibit, and I'm personally a big fan of Exhibit. I'm Paparazzi, and I think it's at the Speed of Life. He had an enhanced CD, and I remember his music video was on there. I don't know if you remember that, but that's why
Yeah, man.
the first CD I released, we made it enhanced. So the music video, so for those of you watching, you don't know what CDs are, but you'd put the CD in and the music video would pop up, not just the song. So we did that, and that was inspired by Exhibit.
Super
But
cool.
if you want to get a feature and a beat pack, I'll put the links below here so you can pick that up. And
I think,
get a feature.
dude, I think what we'll do is we'll hook up your audience with a discount for that pack as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
exclusively, we'll post all the information below, and then
Okay.
people can check out the pack. If they're interested, they can grab it for a discount as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. What code do you want to use?
Uh,
Manifest? Want to just put
yeah,
manifest there?
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do Manifest.
All right. MANAFEST manifest, and you guys will get a special code discount for the people watching this. So appreciate that, man.
For sure, man.
So dude, thank you so much for hanging out today. This stuff inspires me beyond, and we need to do a track together, man. I gotta get your team guys to send me a beat, man, and get a song
Sounds
going.
good, man. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
All right. Thanks so much for hanging out, man.
You got it. My pleasure.